How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. We are talking about politics, so if you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. There is no such thing as a dumb question. You don't have to worry about getting ridiculed or roasted or made fun of for not knowing things. That is not what we do here on Ask Me Anything About Politics. You can ask me anything that you like. That fear of judgment or roasting or anything negative of that nature. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. So if you got any questions, let me know in the chat. I don't believe in making people feel stupid or ashamed for not knowing things or trying to learn new things. And so, if you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat. There's no roasting, there's no debating, there's no ridicule. I don't care who you voted for in the past. I don't care if you are further to the left than me. I don't care if you're further to the right than me. There's going to be no judgments or roasting or debating whatsoever. Sometimes I get a little spicy. What's up, Kelly? Good to see you. Sometimes I get a little spicy if people start giving me the business in the chat, but I try my best to keep it civil. Even if people are calling me names. The Rocketeer says, well, maybe a little judgment. Maybe from you, fella, but no, this is a judgment-free zone from this guy right here. So yeah, I know politics can be really intimidating if you don't know too much about it, and I like to make this space available for people to ask any kind of question that they like, and you don't got to worry about getting judged. Truck says, how many times has he just said Trump lies today? I haven't said anything about that, Truck. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, he does lie. So I don't know what your intention was with that question there. So yeah, any questions that you like, you can just go ahead and ask me in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. There's no roasting. There's no debating. I'm not here to get into fights with anybody. I don't care who you voted for in the past. And you don't got to worry about, if I ask this question, he's going to think I'm some sort of cuck libtard, or if I ask this question, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA lunatic. I'm not here to call anybody a fascist. I'm not here to call anybody, a feckless weenie. I am just here to answer your questions about politics. Fall of Crown says, do you ever think that the Republican Party could be more moderate? I think that the Republican Party could only be more moderate. It is such an extreme version of itself these days. MAGA has completely taken over the Republican Party, and it is the far right of the American political discourse. And so, yeah, anything further to the left from what they are would be, and there's no other place they can go. Like, they can't get more extreme. Tanner says, you're just here to spread propaganda and misinformation. No, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about. Bob says, thoughts on Nate Silver? He seems like a pretty competent pollster, but, I'm not in the business of judging, like large data set models or anything like that. I am just, I don't give a lot of value to the polls. They are sometimes good and sometimes bad. So yeah, I don't know. He's all right, I guess. Doomsayer says, if you think things can't get more extreme, shows you need a bigger imagination. Yeah, I suppose that's right, Doomsayer. I was being a little hyperbolic just to try to communicate how extreme the right wing of this country has become. But yeah, that is also one of my, philosophies, is that, yeah, it can get worse, and they can get worse, and they will. Joey says, the far left and right need to calm down for real. The difference is that the far left isn't in control of anything, Joey. The far left isn't in control of the Democratic Party. The far left is not in control of the government. Whereas the far right is in control of both the Republican Party and all levers of power in the government right now. So that should be a big concern for everybody in the world. Let's see here. Helen says, they are chicken shit. They are scared of the orange man. I mean, you should be scared of the orange man also. He's just fucking disappearing American citizens. So that would be really concerning to me, Oscuro says, what do you think about the crossfire hurricane declassifications? I don't know anything about that. Garage added you to Houthi PC small group. Well, yeah, they're just having anything of that shit. Ariel says, are you Democrat or Republican? I am a Democrat. Let's see here. Elba says, wait until he sees how bad the far left is. Yeah, the extreme far left that just thinks that healthcare and college should be free. Yeah, can you believe that shit? Church says extreme right wing while it's the left burning down dealerships and people's property. What do you think about January 6th, Church? And also, you don't know that it is the left that is doing that. Nobody has claimed responsibility for burning down Tesla dealerships and people's property. And Elon Musk has pissed off a lot of people, so it could fucking be anybody, you know? Sham says, do you think that the far left will ever have the power that MAGA has gained? I don't know. You know, the Democratic Party is a big tent, and so we have people in it that are as far right as Joe Manchin and Joe Biden, and as far left as AOC and Bernie Sanders. And I don't really see that changing anytime soon. So I think that even if the Democrats did take full control of the government, it would still be a wide swath of opinions, whereas the MAGA Republican Party has done the work of purging anybody except the most extreme right wing from their ranks. And that's why we don't have any more Adam Kinzingers or Liz Cheneys who are willing to stand up to Trump the way that they did in the first term. Let's see here. Church says, all I need to know about you. See ya. Cool. Well, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. All right, scrolling down to the bottom. Tyro, thank you for acknowledging my haircut. I appreciate that. All right, let's see here. Fall of Crow says, do you think that the Democrats party needs to become more left or more centrist to win? So the arguments about why Democrats have lost various elections in the past, they will range from they're too far to the left or they're too far to the right. And I find it hilarious to watch these, debates happening because it's almost like the Democratic Party is Schrodinger's political party in that at any given moment they are at the same time too far to the left and too far to the right and doing too much and doing too little. And so, yeah, I don't really have a dog in that fight. I have seen plenty of evidence that certain elections in certain states or cities go certain ways because the Democrats there are exactly as centrist or progressive as they need to be to win those elections, and vice versa. I have seen, the data to suggest that so-and-so candidate lost because they were too progressive or because they were too centrist. I honestly don't think that has anything to do with it. I think that the reason why people don't vote for Democrats is because of misinformation and propaganda. The billionaires in this country working with the Republican Party have been for decades smearing the left so that no matter what they do, they interpret it as wrong or they lie about Democrats and they say that they're doing things that they're not doing. And I think that until we can solve this problem of people recognizing that they're being lied to about the Democratic Party, that they are not being told of the things the Democratic Party is doing well, and similarly, that we are not being harsh enough about how bad the Republican Party has become and has been in, recent history, I don't see this problem being solved. Regardless of if the Democratic Party came up with the most perfect messaging strategy that resonated with every voter, it would get drowned out in social media with a bunch of lies and propaganda and people saying, oh, I can't vote for this because of that, or, whatever. Helen says, people do not vote for Democrats because they listen to social media too much. Momo says, do you like Trump? No, I do not. Let's see here. What's your beard routine? That is not a question about politics, but I just wash it in the shower. Let's see here. Yardog says, oh, another liberal. Can you tell because I'm telling the truth? Lever2K says, thoughts on the Signal GC leak. So here's the thing about the Signal thing, which is that it's obviously a national security nightmare. The fact that these guys were using this app to talk about sensitive national security information. It is extremely easy to get access to people's phones, their private phones, which is why, if you work for the government, you have like these secured and encrypted devices that you're supposed to do all of your, official communications on. But no, these guys are just using their personal cell phones and Signal. So, and one of the guys was in Russia. And if you ask people who've worked for the government before, they tell you that when you go to certain countries, you're not allowed to bring your phone in because of how easily your phone can get broken into. And so the fact that one of these dudes was in Russia with his personal phone discussing sensitive government information on Signal is a massive national security fuck up. That's number one. Number two is the reason why these guys are using Signal is to keep this information from you, the American public. They have managed to engineer the most perfect fuck up of we are going to make it so that the American public can't see what we're doing, but that adversarial nations like Russia can see what we're doing. So yeah, you know, the Mossad, the fucking KGB, you know, like they are aware of everything that our government is saying and doing, but we don't get to be privy to that information. So yeah, how many of these fucking ding-dongs are on Signal every day discussing all the illegal shit that they are doing, all the ways that they're fucking us over 24/7, just for the express purpose of keeping that information from you and me. This administration, just like the first Trump administration, was not only lawless, but was obscure and was not forthcoming, was not, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It was not a transparent administration. It was the opposite. It was opaque. Nyquilius says, how is the far right in control? Misinformation and propaganda. Yardog says, how much do you want to bet the CIA is the one responsible for doing this? I mean, I would bet $1 million that the CIA is not the one responsible for doing this. But I don't think that you will ever believe any piece of information that I put in front of you that says that. Simplebot says, does Signal messages automatically deleting violate record laws? Yes, it does, Simplebot. It 100% does. And that is why it is not allowed for government employees to have communications that way. Helen says, Elon Musk, the biggest billionaire, is cutting funds to the middle class. Yeah, and he's putting that money directly into his pocket. Ed said, did you study government policy? I didn't in college, but I do now as an adult. O.D. Santana says, who is to blame for the economy? Billionaires and the Republican Party. That is true. That is who is to blame for the economy. Joey says, do you think running Kamala was a good choice? I mean, she got destroyed in the polls. So Kamala did the best that she could with the time that she was given. I think the mistake was Joe Biden deciding to run for a second term. You know, at that point, we were already kind of fucked. We know that Kamala Harris's campaign was working because she did better in swing states than she did even in deep blue states. But she just didn't have enough time. And so, yeah, I don't think that she was a bad candidate. I don't think that she ran a bad campaign. I just think that she didn't have enough runway. Our Warrior said, how did Fauci fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology? I have no idea what you're talking about. Seems like some right-wing propaganda to me. Jav69 says, what can us regular folk do in these trying times? So, Jav, that's a long speech, but I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. What we regular folks can do is stuff. We can do work. We can do things. Now, what those things are is many and varied, but there are a lot of things that we need to do. We need to be putting political pressure on Republicans that are currently elected. We need to be talking to people in real life, our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers, our loved ones, and making sure that they are not getting their news off of social media, correcting any misinformation or propaganda narratives that have managed to sneak into their noodle. We need to make sure that we're voting. We need to make sure that we are prepared to vote. If the Trump administration does what they said that they're planning on doing as far as like the government suppression bills that they are working on and Trump's newest executive order trying to make it harder for everybody to vote, we need to make sure that we have all of our documents in order. We need to make sure that the people that we know have their documents in order so that they're prepared to vote as well. Yeah, you know, we've got special elections coming up in Wisconsin and Florida and New York on April 1st. So everybody should go out and vote for that. And, you know, you should work to elect Democratic candidates because the Republican Party is fucking asleep at the wheel, letting Donald Trump and Elon Musk just fucking steal all of our money and destroy our fucking government. Our government that we built to help protect us from the billionaire class and the powerful is currently being dismantled by the billionaire class and the powerful. And that should bother everybody, and we should be working our ass off to elect Democrats so we can stop this fuckery. Let's see here. Nyquilius says, what do you mean misinformation and propaganda? Like, is that not prevalent on both sides? It is not, Nyquilius. There is a big difference between the propaganda and misinformation that is being pummeled into media and social media from the right and anything that you can say about the left doing something similar. It just does not exist. And if it does exist, it is nowhere near to the extent. The propaganda and misinformation machine of the right wing funded by the billionaire class is unprecedented in you know, human history. It is insidious. People don't know that it is happening. In addition, you know, the Republican Party and the billionaire class are working with Russia to continue doing this shit. You know, there was a story that came out in 2016 about these two Facebook groups that were started by Russian bot farms, but they were able to get very real Americans to show up to a very real protest and fight each other. And to think that we know that this is something that Russia did, and that we're all just continuing to use social media as though Russia stopped trying to do this. They are purposefully creating division and chaos in this country by pretending to be American citizens of various different political ideologies and spreading the exact kind of propaganda narratives that will elect Republicans or get people to not vote for Democrats. It is massive. It is the size of the sun. It is I don't know if I've talked to any human being who truly understands the scale of this. There was a network, I don't know if it still exists, but there was, during the first Trump administration, a network of websites that all appeared to be local newspapers' websites with names like the Tampa Journal or the St. Louis Gazette or something like that. And if you did a little digging, you discovered that this was all just right-wing propaganda disguised as local newspapers. And it was all being funded by the same fucking billionaires, you know? So yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man. It is so pervasive that we don't even know that it's happening. But if you just, if you start looking for it, you start seeing it. Like, wow, that is not what, Kamala Harris said, and yet that is the narrative that is going around on social media. Wow, that is not what was in the Affordable Care Act, and yet that is all they're talking about on the news, is this lie about whatever, Let's see here. Louis says, Jarrett, you're a cool guy. Thank you. I think so too. Simplebot says, how can I find ground with my MAGA family when we don't agree on reality? So you don't need to take a MAGA person and turn them into a Democrat. All you got to do is push the needle a little bit. And, there are books that are written about this. There's a great book called The Persuaders that I just finished reading that discussed this. A big part of it is just listening to people and meeting them where they are, finding whatever common ground, even if it's something as simple as, isn't it weird that we have such different ideas of what's going on in the world just based on where we get our information? That's weird, right? Isn't that strange? Let's see here. Tyro Pillar over on YouTube says, how come they can move money around for tax cuts but not for the ones that need it? So they want us vulnerable. Yeah, Tyro, you fucking put your you fucking hit the nail right on the head, my man. They want us to be desperate. They want us to not have the funds available to us, Dakota says, who do you think will be the 2028 Democratic nominee? Dakota, I get asked this question regularly, and I always punt it because I'm not really here to wishcast the 2028 election. The people are going to vote for whoever the people want to vote for in the primary. The people who are going to want to run are going to run. I'm focused on the elections that are coming up. We got special elections happening on April 1st in Wisconsin, Florida, and New York. And we got the midterm elections coming up in 2026. And we need everybody activated for that and doing the work to help elect Democrats. Garrett says, let's talk about how Democrat and Republican administrations have sent billions, if not trillions, to Israel. Yeah, that's true, Garrett, but the Democrats are still better on Israel than the Republican administration is. The Democrats are putting pressure on Netanyahu to stop doing war crimes and do the two-state solution that he had agreed to. Now, were they pushing hard enough? No, not in my opinion, not in lots of people's opinion, but they were putting pressure on him. Now, contrast that to what Trump is doing. He canceled sanctions against illegal Israeli settlements in West Bank. He resumed sending Israel 2,000-pound bombs, and he's openly talking and advocating for ethnically cleansing Palestine of all Palestinians that he can build fucking Trump properties on there. That's worse than what the Democratic Party was doing. Garrett says, how do we stop funding Israel? You got to elect people that are down with stopping funding Israel. Let's see here. Our Warrior says, don't worry, the DNC elites will tell you who the selection is for president. The Democratic Party does not decide who the presidential nominee is going to be. People vote for the Democratic nominee in the primary. Yes, the Democratic Party does put their finger on the scales for more centrist candidates, but that does not outweigh the votes of the people. I know some of you will also say, what about Kamala Harris? That was an exception, and it was making the best of a bad situation. Sal Nunez says, Democrats, Republicans are both killing a people. Doesn't matter of now, there will be golf courses. It does matter, Sal Nunez, because there are going to be Palestinians who are dead under a Republican administration that would not have been under a Democratic administration. So I'm sure it matters a lot to that person who is going to be dead now. Let's see here. Sacred, Dangerous, and Hard says, imagine still thinking the DNC doesn't just pick who they want. Yeah, they don't. Sacred Dangerous Hard. Like they don't. That's what the primary process is. And again, they do put their finger on the scale, but the number of people that voted for Clinton over Bernie Sanders, I don't think that with the DNC actually made that big of a difference. And similarly with Biden, like he just fucking won the primary, guys. So I don't know what you're talking about. JJ says, what about Laken Riley's family? Well, I feel really bad for, Laken Riley and her family, but it was not Democratic policies that put that guy in the country. That was just, a dude, and if you care about women getting murdered, then, you should try to stop that from happening. And that has almost nothing to do with immigrants. Immigrants commit crimes at lower rates than naturalized citizens. Let's see here. JJ says open borders. There were no open borders under the Biden administration. That is a lie. Uper Lars says, when push comes to shove, do you think Republicans will come to their senses on common sense issues? I don't. And I think that it mostly has to do with propaganda and misinformation. And, I'm not saying that they are more susceptible to propaganda and misinformation than other people. I'm just saying that they're the people who are still going to support the Republican Party, even though the Republican Party is currently taking a big fat shit on their fucking faces. But the propaganda is going to tell them that the shit is on their face because of immigrants or trans kids or brown people or poor people or whatever. Just Mark says, Biden had open borders. Your spelling is atrocious, Mark. And also, that open borders was not a thing during the Biden administrations. Give it a Google. Nervous Soup says, may you talk about the leaked messages about the bombing, or is it too much? Yeah, I mean, I've already talked about it a little bit, but I'm happy to reiterate. It is a problem because, number one, they were using Signal to keep that information from us, but it was also a problem because they were using Signal on their personal cell phones, which are really easy to hack if you are a malicious state government like Russia. So it is very likely that this information being on Signal was going to adversarial nations like Russia and Iran, but it was purposefully being put on Signal to hide from us. So it's just the worst possible scenario of we not getting to see that information that we are legally obligated to be able to see. They're using Signal so that we can't file Freedom of Information Acts for these text messages. And at the same time, the people who we don't want to be reading those messages, like Russia and Iran, have full access because they're on their phones now. The fact that one of those guys was using his personal phone in Russia is a massive national security fuck up. Nyquilius says, what about the billionaires funding Democrats? Do they not cause misinformation and propaganda? No, as far as I know, the billionaires that give money to Democrats are not doing so for misinformation and propaganda purposes. There's a difference between the platforms of the Democratic Party and the platforms of the Republican Party. The platform of the Republican Party is the billionaire wish list, and the platform of the Democratic Party is not. You got billionaires like Warren Buffett who are out there screaming like, raise my taxes. I do not need all this money. That is the kind of billionaire that donates to the Democratic Party. 75% of all billionaire donations go to Republicans, and it is because the Republican platform is the billionaire wish list. So yeah, as far as like billionaires funding like messaging ops, it is not misinformation and propaganda. It is just the reality of the situation. So yeah, if you can find me some shit that will change my mind, like I'm open to seeing it. But yeah, I don't imagine a billionaire funding a Democratic candidate because they're trying to do the morally right thing of increasing taxes on themselves, using that money to spread lies and misinformation. Like, that doesn't track for me. Mega Guap says, I don't know why so ride or die with politicians. They're bad people, LOL. Not all politicians are bad people. Some of them are good people. And if you call them all bad people, you are giving cover for the worst ones. If you got two people in a store and one of them is stabbing someone in the neck and the other one is just reading magazines and the store owner wants them to buy the magazines instead of just reading them there, and the store owner says all the customers are bad, it makes it seem like the kid reading magazines is exactly as bad as the person stabbing the store owner in the neck. Let's see here. Nas says Kamala equals bad person. I don't think so. Connor French Fry says, who'd you vote for? Democrats up and down the ballot. Christy says, what in the blue MAGA is this? This is not blue MAGA. This is not blue MAGA. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. There is a big difference between somebody correctly calling out the Republican Party for being terrible and the Democratic Party being better, though flawed, than MAGA, which is Republican, which is Donald Trump is a God king who has never done anything wrong. He doesn't lie. He is a perfect angel sent to us from God. Do you see the difference between me saying I would rather have a Democrat in office than somebody who is fundamentally changing our democracy into a fucking dictatorship, who is taking our tax dollars that we already put into the government and not not spending them the way that we told them we wanted that money spent, and instead just giving it to the billionaire class. Like, there's a big difference between those two things. Gregory says, why did the Whig Party disband? I actually don't remember. I remember learning that in high school, but that information did not stick in there. Travis Delaney says, vote blue if you like poo. That's hilarious considering the fact that the right-wing Supreme Court just made it legal for companies to just put a bunch of shit in our drinking water. So yeah, if you like poo, vote blue. I don't know. It seems like if you don't want poo in your drinking water, vote blue. Let's see here. Travis Delaney just keeps on saying that, so that is an example of something that gets you blocked. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but actually ask a question. Don't just spam the comments. Patrick, good to see you again. Dude, did you get pulled into a signal group too? Very, very funny. JMO43 says the tax code is a joke. Reform the tax code and quit creating loopholes. Completely agree with that, JMO43. The Democratic Party is down for that. The Republican Party wants to change the tax code to make it so that our taxes go up and taxes for billionaires go down. So there you go. Noicha Gamer said, did you see the Americans that died in Lithuania? I mean, I saw that Americans had died in Lithuania. I did not see what the story was, what the details are of that. Onobody says, talk Pelosi. Sure, Pelosi is an example of a centrist and extremely old Democrat. That is not the wing of the party that I ascribe to, but fact of the matter is, it's still better than all of the Republican Party. Nancy Pelosi has done some really dumb things, in my opinion, like starting fights with the progressive wing and undermining the young, new progressives like AOC, getting into stupid little flame wars with her. Talking down the Green New Deal, which was a good piece of ideology. And she also said that she didn't think it was a bad idea for people in government to do insider trading, which was also fucking dumb, and I completely disagree with that. Now, some people will point at Pelosi and say that that is an example that all Democrats are corrupt, which is fucking hilarious to me because she's one Democrat that said that, as opposed to the entire Republican Party, which has actually no problem with bribery and corruption and conning and grifting and shit like that. The platform of the Republican Party is to make bribery easier. They have full control of the government right now, and yet they are not making it illegal for people in government to be able to trade stocks. That is something that the Democrats are currently working on. There was a bill in the last Congress that had 24 Democrats signed on to it that did not get a vote because Republicans held the House. So you tell me which party actually gives a shit about getting the money out of politics. Jersey Rican says, how do the Democrats combat the attack on law firm that Trump don't agree with? So it's difficult. The Democratic Party doesn't have any political power right now, so they kind of have their hands tied as far as things they can do to protect various agencies or companies or individuals that Trump and the Republican Party are going after illegally. I think that the better thing that can happen is for all of these law firms to kind of like join hands and say that we will not abide by you trying to, throw random ass consequences onto one of our competitors, even though that would be really good for us financially. The news media should do the exact same thing where, Trump is going after like ABC and CNN for some shit. Then every other news organization should say, well, we are not going to put up with that shit. But the fact of the matter is, like, private industry is either completely on board with what is going on because they only give a shit about money. They don't give a shit about us, how much we're going to get fucked over by this shit. Or they're just scared. They're scared about their bottom line. And they're scared about their jobs and being able to put food on the family for put food on the table for their families. So yeah, it's just not happening. And we can encourage them to do that. But right now, the only agency that we have in this fight is what we do personally. And so, if you've been on my lives before and you've heard me rant about this shit, like, we just have to be the change. We have to do the work. Nobody's coming to save us. Not the Democrats. They want to, they just don't have the resources, and definitely not private industry. Gregory says, I like certain things from both parties, which generally leaves me left out. What do you like about the Republican Party, Gregory? Because oftentimes when I hear people say that both sides thing, if I do a little digging, I discover that all of their ideologies mirror that of the Democratic Party, and they've just been lied to about what the Democrats and the Republicans believe in. MAGA Final Boss says, you need serious help. Really, MAGA Final Boss? Because my screen name is Jarrett Berenstein, and yours is MAGA Final Boss. So which one of us needs help, my man? Let's see here. Brady Caroline says, what do you think the next step is going forward now that the texts have been released? I think we need to put pressure on our representatives that are currently in office to let them know that we give a shit about this and that we do not want this behavior to continue. We want there to be repercussions and oversights. And we don't think that anybody should be using Signal for, official government business, because not only is that susceptible to interference from hostile foreign nations like Russia, but it also deletes all those messages, which is against the Presidential Records Act, which says that all that stuff needs to be documented so that we have it for the history record. JJ says, how do you feel about losing the House and Senate and the presidency? I feel worried for people because a lot of people are getting hurt by this. People are dying because of this. JJ, so I know that I know why you're here, but I'm going to answer you sincerely. Not a Noob One says, question, how much of the Kool-Aid have you drank? 0. Uperlar says, do you think the pardon laws need reform? Absolutely. I do not think that presidents need to have the right to pardon people. Nyquilius says, does left-wing media like CNN and MSNBC spread misinformation and propaganda? So CNN is not left-wing media. MSNBC is what I would call progressive media, and I do not believe that either of them spread misinformation and propaganda. I don't like CNN personally because I find that CNN kind of like waters down how shitty the Republican Party has become in the interest of appearing as centrist as humanly possible. But if you take the lump sum of all of the reporting of CNN over the past couple of decades, it skews center-right as opposed to being left-wing, which is the way that you described it. Now, progressive sources of news like MSNBC or Crooked Media, people will call that biased, and I completely disagree with that. I think that it is called progressive media or left-wing media because they're the only media that is accurately reporting the Republican Party. And the Republican Party has gotten so extreme and people just don't recognize it for some fucking reason. For some fucking reason being propaganda and misinformation. Democrats never get any credit for the good things they do, and Republicans never get any blame for the bad things that they do. People think of the Republican Party as being the party of national security, but they do shit like this. And they also let 9/11 happen. They were completely in charge of government during 9/11, and we, for some reason, did not take that and go, oh my God, I guess Republicans can't be trusted with national security. People think of the Republican Party as being the more fiscally responsible party, but they have been the ones in charge during all of the most, detrimental stock crashes that have happened in American history. I think like 9 of the 10 worst stock crashes have all been during Republican administrations. And meanwhile, the Biden administration did a lot of great work for the American people that just nobody fucking knows about. And when I do my laundry list of a non-inclusive laundry list of all the amazing things the Biden administration did during their 4 years, the response that I get from people is, oh my God, I had no idea. I did not know that was a thing. JWP says, you lost all credibility if you think MSNBC is truth tellers. I mean, they are. So I think you have no credibility because of that. Yashua Yukif says, Democrats have nothing. That's not true. They have lots. Hydros Inc. says, the Republicans add more to the deficit as well. That is completely accurate. Eyes Will says, what do you think about trans women playing in women's sports? I'm fine with it. I'm also fine with if, there's like 10 people that this affects in reality. I don't care. I don't care about this issue. I think that trans people should be able to play sports. So find them a league. Fix the league rankings if you think it's not fair. We let Shaq play basketball and he's half gargantuan. So, he's half ogre or whatever. Insert your funny, he's half giant. So sports aren't always fair. So I don't know what the fucking big deal is. There is no trans woman who has set a all-time world record in a sport. Even the ones that are fucking killing it have all been beaten by natural-born women at some point. So, again, I don't give a shit. This is an issue that does not need to be decided federally. It affects like 10 people total. So, yeah, it is a political football that the right is using to try to cull favor and get votes. It is a bullshit ideology. It's a bullshit political, wedge issue. Let's see here. Steve Sin says, what about all the weightlifting records that were broken by a biological man? I do not believe that is an accurate thing. I would need to double check that. The only one that I heard about was the swimmer. As far as I know, all the other trans women that were playing sports were pretty average comparatively, except for that one swimmer who crushed it, but then the record was not actually hers. It was by a natural born woman instead. But I'll look into that weightlifting one. But again, I don't care. If we have one weightlifter that is doing way better, then we'll deal with that as an individual case. Let's see here. GOP says, if you don't have a daughter, your opinion means nothing on transgenders in women's sports. Okay, well, I mean, I have a sister, and I have a mom. I feel like I'm allowed to have an opinion about this. Shannon G. Fukio says, can you tell us what's going on with Yemen? It's a little outside of my comfort zone. Yeah, I would love to, but if you want a really good breakdown of the situation in Yemen, there's a podcast called Pod Save the World where they talk about foreign affairs. Last week's episode, they fully went into Yemen and the Houthis and everything like that. I listened to that. I just forgot a lot of that information. Let's see here. Active Limbic says, text on Signal, classified or non-classified? I mean, there was definitely sensitive information on there, classified information on there, and it is just the Republicans backpedaling and moving the goalposts that are trying to make it seem like it wasn't as bad as it actually was. But yeah, 100% it was exactly as bad as people like Pete Buttigieg are saying that it was. Let's see here. GOP says, good one. Sister and mom, not the same thing. LOL. I mean, they're women, so I don't know what your fucking deal is, man. But no, continue to create reasons why you think that my opinions are invalid, my man. Kiki's Wine Adventure says, what was the name of the podcast about Yemen? So it's Pod Save the World, and you want last week's episode, not this week's episode. Pod Save the World. Let's see here. It's the Rocketeer. What do you think about Philip DeFranco as a digestible news source? I do not know who that is. Sorry, my man. Let's see here. Yeah, if any Democrat did what Patrick Scholes says over on YouTube, if any Democrat did what the Trump administration has been doing, there will be instant calls for removal from the right. Non-Hero says the only thing Republicans can do now is lie. That is accurate. Jackson Shevlin says, do you think they meant to add a reporter that is MAGA aligned to get a hold of narrative control? Ooh, that's an interesting theory, Jackson. I don't know. That's really interesting. Asher Isaacson says, how do we save the Second Amendment? I mean, with Republicans in full control of the government and the Supreme Court, I think the Second Amendment is pretty fucking well saved at this point. Let's see here. Wilso Racer says, they did worse, LMAO. Y'all forgot about Afghanistan. I don't know what you're talking about as far as Afghanistan is concerned. There were no secret war plans for Afghanistan that were being shared on Signal or personal phones. That war was started by a Republican administration. So, again, what are you talking about? Jack Barman says, will Dems ever recover? They won't if we are expecting them to do it by themselves. We have to help them because the Democratic Party does not have the resources to fight the Republican Party because the Republican Party is working with all of the richest people in the world and adversarial nations like Russia. And we do not have the resources to fight that. Even if we gave the Democratic Party all of our money, it would still not equal the amount of money that Vladimir Putin, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg all have available to help skew all of the narratives and the fucking, information that's getting into people's noodles and shit like that. So we have to help. We have to help the Democratic Party because, again, they have no political power and they don't have the money and resources that the Republican Party does. So yeah, let's all just do the work. Let's all fucking help. Let's see here. Jack Barman says, let's try a primary next cycle. There was a primary in 2024, so you can miss me with that shit. Non-Hero says, don't forget Saudi money like the $2 billion given to Trump's son-in-law. Yeah, this fucking Saudis are helping the Republicans as well. Newbie says, Democrats waste too much money. Terrible at investing. That is not accurate, Newbie. The deficit always balloons under Republican administrations. If you want investments, that's what the Democratic Party is about. Like, investing in education solves a lot of the problems that we're having today. But the Republican Party just believes in fucking ripping out all the wiring of government, fucking everything up, and then pointing at the garbage fire and saying, look, government is terrible. We broke it, but we're just saying like it's bad, Let's see here. This dude whose avatar is just the white supremacist signal says, can you explain what the dancing Israelis thing is about? Well, you called me Stein earlier, so I'm just going to go ahead and block you because I don't know what your fucking deal is. Non-Hero says, investing in infrastructure is a 10-to-1 return. Same thing with education. Yeah, same thing about the fucking IRS. Investing in the IRS returned tenfold because we were able to go after rich tax cheats. Cutting down funding for the IRS and staffing for the IRS is part of the billionaire's wish list. So there you go, guys. Jerry Atlanta, Georgia says, why is J.D. Vance not good anymore? I thought he was okay in comparison to Trump. I mean, he went full MAGA. He's an opportunist and a liar. He was calling fucking Trump Hitler. And then as soon as he thought it would be more politically advantageous, he started saying, oh, I changed my mind about Trump. He's fucking great. I love him. Let's see here. Mr. Growley 2012 says, what do you think about people who voted Trump but hate the MAGA people and January 7th people? So I think that we need to have a lot of room in our political discourse for people who voted for Trump because they thought he was going to be different than he was. You know, we are all victims of propaganda and misinformation, some of us more than others. The people get their news off of social media, and social media convince them of things like that the Democratic Party would be worse on economic issues, or the Democratic Party would be worse on Gaza, or Trump would lower costs or end wars or shit like that. All of those are lies, and we are seeing that being lies today. But, you know, some people, they don't pay attention to politics. They maybe aren't able to see through the bullshit as easily as people who do pay attention to politics. So I think that we need to work with those people to bring them back into the sunlight, to see what is actually going on, and encouraging them to not get their news off of social media, and encourage them to, you know, help fix this shit. You know, it's like as much as I'm going to forgive you for this, your vote is part of the reason why we're in this mess, so please help us clean it up. Non-Hero says if the right wanted to truly help most Americans, they would close the tax loopholes they abuse. Completely agree with that. GOP says Trump won all swing states. How did this occur? Misinformation and propaganda. Yorkie says, do you have Biden glasses? I mean, aviators? I do have aviators. AQ says, what did Biden do while he was in power? I'm aware of making it easier for migrants to come. AQ, so he didn't make it easier for migrants to come. He made legal immigration easier. He didn't open the borders and say, hey, if you're fucking, you know, cartel member, please come in. We need the votes. He tried to streamline the immigration process so that it wasn't a giant backlog that forced people to try to come here illegally. But if you want me to give you like my laundry list of all the amazing things that the Biden administration did, I'll just run through a couple for you. He lowered healthcare costs. He capped the cost of insulin and asthma inhalers. The Trump administration reversed that, so now all of our medication costs have gone up. Congratulations, Trump voters. He was the most pro-union president since FDR. He had a great head of the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, who was changing enforcement in ways that were very pro-union. He walked the picket line, which is the first time a president has ever fucking done that. He passed an infrastructure bill, so there are bridges that are not going to fall down because of Biden. Thank you very much. He passed the PACT Act and the CHIP Act, which, you know, the PACT Act was about increasing access of healthcare for veterans, and Trump reversed that, so congratulations, Trump voters, you're fucking over veterans. And the Chips and Science Act increased technological production here in America. And now Trump is reversing that. All of those great technology jobs are going to be gone. Let's see here. The Inflation Reduction Act. The Trump administration caused inflation to go up to 9%. The Inflation Reduction Act brought it back down to 2.4%. It is also the largest investment in green energy in our nation's history, which is transformational and is going to save people money on their energy costs and also their health costs because there won't be as much pollution. It is going to be a necessary stem in the tide of climate change fucking us all over. But additionally, all of that investment from the IRA was revitalizing small towns that, you know, the coal industry came in and as soon as the coal dried up, they fucking left. And now everybody there's addicted to fucking fentanyl and shit like that. The Biden administration came in and started providing good, safe, clean energy jobs. And the Trump administration is trying to reverse that. So fuck all those small towns, I guess. So yeah, there's just a couple off the top of my head. Great things that the Biden administration did. Let's see here. Mr. Man 25 says, oh yeah, also he had dementia, so he didn't do any of those things. He's a puppet. I mean, if that's a puppet, I'll take more puppet, please. But, you know, if you're telling me that Trump doesn't have dementia with all the fucking crazy shit that he says, I don't give a shit. I would much rather have a Democrat pile of fossils than the Republican miasma that we're suffering under right now. You're telling me that a pile of dusty Democratic bones walked the picket line the first time a president has ever done that? Sign me up for another fucking pile of Democrat bones. Let's see here. Melvin Gordon says, opinion on the Franco-Russian pact. I am unfamiliar with that. Shea Cruel, good to see you again. Do you think the text chain leak was intentional to distract America from something worse. I don't know how you can get much worse than that, Shay Cruel. The Trump administration is doing the flood the zone strategy of just do all the terrible shit at the same time so that people don't know where to focus their energies. But yeah, the Trump administration did not want us to know that they were using Signal in order to keep us from getting that information, but also it is a national security nightmare. So at the same time as they're hiding that information from us, they are giving it to adversarial nations like North Korea and Russia and Iran. James keeps on spamming the comments with MAGA, and that is the kind of thing that will get you blocked. I do not care if you have different opinions than me, but just ask a question and be part of the conversation. AQ says, who will the candidate for the Democrats be the next election? I don't really like wish casting for 2028. People are going to vote for whoever they want to in the primaries, and that is how we will figure that out. But I am focused instead on the special elections that are coming up on April 1st, one in Wisconsin, two in Florida, one in New York, and we've also got the midterms coming up in 2026. And we all have to do the work to try to get Democrats elected in those elections, because otherwise this fucking shitstorm will just get worse, and our rights will get taken away, and more American citizens will be rounded up and sent to fucking maximum security prison concentration camps in El Salvador, and that's bad, I think. Let's see here. Somebody has reported my live for not complying with community guidelines, discussing drugs or other related substances. I don't think I did that. Well, that's fucking bullshit. So yeah, this is a thing that Republicans like to do to try to shut my lives down, is they file these sort of like bullshit, community guidelines violations against me. So, where are we at? We're at about 45 minutes. I was probably going to wrap up in about 25 minutes. We'll see how my numbers do. When I get reported like this, my numbers don't go up anymore. So, I might end early. But we still got 170 over on TikTok, so that's pretty good. Let's see here. Over on Twitch, we got Chameleon No Yes 11, something like that, says, what do you think your opinions are correct? Why do you think your opinions are correct? Because I get my news from multiple sources, so I combat any bias that I might be reading or listening to by getting it from multiple sources. Let's see here. Philip DeFranco News, a YouTuber for almost 20 years. Highly recommend you check him out. Yeah, I'll check out Philip DeFranco. Seems pretty cool. The Ilmoth, good to see you again. What's fascism and why are people calling Trump a fascist? So there's sort of like, there's a bunch of different definitions of fascism. There's, the kind of like, bird's eye view of what fascism is, which is like a government and a state that is controlled just for the will of like the person at the very top of the chain. So, like Hitler was an example of fascism because, all of Germany was just whatever Hitler wants. And that's kind of why we are calling Republicans in the Trump administration that, because they are eliminating checks and balances, they are consolidating power, they are firing anybody who's not a Trump loyalist, and that's all like fascist shit. There's more like in-depth and nuanced discussions of what fascism is, but, and there's like a list of like 10 things that fascist governments do, where it'll be like demonizing the press or attacking institutions of higher learning, or demonizing others, and that other can be immigrants or Jews or brown people or poor people or, trans kids or whatever. There's a couple of other ones. I can't remember what they are, but that's basically it, like consolidating power, firing everybody who's not a loyalist, shit like that. Let's see here. Count Ejacula says, what are your multiple sources? So what I use are progressive media like MSNBC and Crooked. I like them because they are the ones that are the most honest about how shitty the Republican Party has become, and they don't not criticize the Democratic Party. They do, but in a way that I find a lot more fair and balanced. I balance that by checking out some neutral sources like the Associated Press, some, legacy media like the New York Times, and some foreign media like the Guardian UK or the BBC. You can also use news aggregators like Ground News or the Reddit news page. Those are other good ways of getting multiple sources. Non-Hero says, love thy enemy is a teaching the Republicans have forgotten. It's love thy neighbor, I believe, Non-Hero. I don't think it was specifically love thy enemy, but I could be wrong about that. It's been a while since I was in Catholic school. GOP Kamer says, oh, so liberal media. Oh yeah, fair. What a joke. Did you not hear me mention other media as well? Wilso Racer says, LMAO, dude is watching nothing but liberal media. That's not true. I just named a bunch of other sources that are not liberal media. Sphinx Egyptian says, it's like Dark Ages 2 when the church destroyed arts and knowledge, held since ancient times. Completely agree with that, Sphinx Egyptian. Let's see here. Wilso Racer says, AP is liberal, in my opinion. It's not, though. Like, by every conceivable metric, it is not liberal. If you think it's liberal just because they refuse to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, then, I think that you should get your news from other sources because you're being told that the AP is liberal and it's literally not. Let's see here. Kaz Tio says, truthful media is liberal to conservatives. Yeah, Mr. Goalie says, thank you for answering my first question. I don't remember what your first question was, but I guess you're welcome. I'm not sure. I can't remember what it was. Uperlar says, does Hegseth survive? I don't know. So so here's the thing. Trump will throw anybody under the bus. He does not give a shit. He'll throw his own mother under the bus. He doesn't give a fuck. But he also wants to see what he can get away with. So he is going to keep anybody that he wants in this administration unless he is forced to. Because the more people fuck up in his administration and there isn't a massive outcry demanding resignations, the more he recognizes that he is a god king that can do whatever the fuck he wants. So that is just another reason why I think that we should all be fucking blowing up Republicans' phone lines with complaints and going to their offices and, making sure that they know that we're fucking pissed off about this, Mr. Goalie, mine was the Trump voter, but we also hate MAGA people question. Oh yeah, I think I remember that one. Let's see here. Jose Arujo says, can you do the tiring tin? I don't know what that is. GOP Kamer says, Trump saved TikTok. You're welcome. Okay. I don't think he did, but, whatever, my man. Count Ejaculate69 says, do you believe in generalizing a whole political party? Yeah, that's what the platform is for. That's what data is for. That's what, we look at the history of what Republicans have been doing versus what Democrats have been doing. We look at outcomes in states that are run by Democrats versus states that are run by Republicans. We look at the last 40 years of various governments that we've had in this country, and we can make generalizations based on what the Republican Party believes in, what they think they're going to do going forward, what their values are, where they get their money from. Yeah, it's totally fair to make generalizations that way. But if you're just like on social media, just like scrolling and you get your generalizations that way, I don't think that that is accurate. I think generalizations should try to be as accurate as humanly possible. Non-hero says identity politics has killed individual politics. Maybe, I don't know. Jim Lutz Music, good to see you again. Says, any significance to the 49-star flag? People have asked me that like I'm trying to make some sort of political statement. It is just a flag that I found and Googled and used, It reminds me of that Simpsons bit, though, where Lisa says to Grandpa, your flag only has 49 stars. And he says, it'll be a cold day in hell before I recognize Missouri, which I think is pretty funny. Lauren says, 1K likes for me, good sir. Love your lives. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate you. Let's see here. All right. Any other questions, everybody? Any other questions? Patrick Schulz repeating that the AP is straight down the middle. Let's see here. Well, the California kind of Canada. Looks like we are slowing down because, again, my live got reported for bullshit reasons. Ghost Monkey says, less combative question. Do you have to? And if you do, how do you explain obvious to MAGA family? I wouldn't say that's nobody needs to, what do you call it? Regardless. All right, so what do we do? Were you, Non-Hero says, were you born this amazing or did you have to work at it? I had to work at it. I was definitely not this amazing in the past. Lauren says, are you marching on the 5th? I didn't know there was anything to march for on the 5th, but I 100% will. I'll put it in my fucking calendar. Google what's happening on the 5th. Let's see here. What the hell date are we on right now? Yeah. All right, I will look that up. Let's see here. Kaz Tio said, did Trump do anything for infrastructure? No, he kept on saying he was gonna, but then he never did. There was a question from Ghost Monkey. So yeah, how do you explain the obvious to your MAGA family? So first of all, you should check out a book called The Persuaders that is all about people that do this work. And it talks about great techniques in that book and great sort of like mindsets to have. in order to try to get people away from propaganda networks and shit like that. Short version is do more listening than talking. Data and facts is not going to change minds. What will change minds is connecting with people, finding common ground, and relating to people on a personal and emotional level. Yeah, that's the short version. But I would definitely say check out a book called The Persuaders. Chucky Arla says, do you think Dems need to move their messaging further left or continue to reach out to the middle? So Chucky, this is one of the things that I can go on for about, an hour. But here's the short version is there are a lot of political pundits who will tell you with 100% confidence that the problem of the party is that they are too far to the left or too far to the right. And there's absolutely zero consensus in ideology. There's zero consensus in the data. I don't think it is a problem that the Democratic Party is a big tent. I think that that is its strength. We haven't figured out how to use that yet as a strength, but it is a strength to represent the diversity of America in your political party, as opposed to the Republican Party, which is largely a monolith of cis, straight, white, male Christians. Now, as far as what do I think? I am a progressive, so I prefer the left wing of the party as opposed to the centrist wing of the party. But there is plenty of data out there to suggest that there are races that Democrats would not win if they echoed talking points like AOC or Bernie Sanders. I kind of believe that we don't have the data to show the otherwise, but I do believe that if they switched to a more hardcore progressive message, that we would still win those elections. Because part of politics is not just, telling people what they want to hear, but convincing them of what, you believe is the right thing. There were plenty of people who voted for Obama who didn't agree with everything that he said, but just met him and were like, you seem like a sincere person who just believes in trying to make this country better. So you got my vote, even though I don't agree with you. So yeah, it's my personal belief, but again, people will argue this left, right, and center. I think that the bigger issue is recognizing that people are getting brainwashed by social media. If people listen to the news or read the news regularly, they vote for Democrats by a factor of 80 to 20. So it's the voters that we all needed to win in this election were just getting their news off of social media. And social media is the fucking Wild West. It is owned by billionaires who are obviously in the pocket of the Republican Party because the Republican Party will cut their taxes and cut regulations for their businesses so they can poison our air and our water without any consequences. It is also really easy to manipulate social media if you have a lot of money, power, and influence, which the billionaire class does. And they are, again, trying to work to elect Republicans because the Republican platform is the billionaire's wish list. Additionally, they spread narratives to try to get people unenthused about the Democratic Party, and they yell at the Democrats for anything that they do. If they, do something that they think is too, AOC-y, they will say, look, the Democratic Party has gone completely insane. They're so far to the left. They're a bunch of communists and socialists. But if Kamala Harris goes out there with Liz Cheney and says, look, Trump is so bad that even a hardcore Republican is campaigning with me, then that narrative becomes, look, the Democratic Party is basically just the Republican Party. There's no difference between the parties. Voting doesn't do anything. This is all a fucking sham, So yeah, everything that Democrats do, they get yelled at. They never get any credit. Republicans never get any blame. And I think that's the main issue as opposed to fixing whatever messaging that could happen in the Democratic Party. I think we need to be the messengers. I think that we need to be the ones who are talking to people in real life and correcting these propaganda narratives and doing the work of trying to elect Democrats, because they can't do it alone. They don't have the resources to combat every billionaire and also all of Russia. Let's see here. Lauren says, can't you restart the live so you can be pushed again and stay with us? I mean, I could, but I was planning on getting off in 15 minutes anyways, because I'm having lunch with my wife today, so it just doesn't. If it was earlier in the live, I would have done that, but again, what are you gonna do? Let's see here. Non-Hero says, Arizona has other problems as my mail-in ballot still never got counted. That is something that I would be so annoying about if that happened to me, Non-Hero. I would be at my fucking Secretary of State's office every fucking day being like, why did my vote not get counted? And the more people, there are some people who think that that's the reason why Democrats lost the election is because of shady tactics like that. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I would hope that everybody is keeping an eye on their vote and their voter registration going forward, because Republicans do not give a shit about cheating and lying their way into victory. Wilso Racer says, LMAO, y'all lost 13 million votes. It's actually closer to 8 million, Wilso Racer, and I've already explained why that happened. You know, propaganda and misinformation. You can win elections by lying and cheating. I just don't think that you should. Let's see here. Scott Clowers says, in Georgia, anyone can challenge your votes. Yeah, I think I read about that, and I believe that Republicans are using that to try to steal elections going forward. Hector Pector says, have you covered Election Truth Alliance? Or pushing for election audits. Yes, I don't remember reading about this group specifically, but I do know that groups like this exist on the right in order to try to, you know, invalidate democratic votes. So yeah, we have to be vigilant about this sort of thing. And it's a double-hander in that as they are making it so that we have to be vigilant about making sure all of our documentation is in order and our registration is up to date. And if they try to cancel it, then we have to object to that, and we have to make sure our vote gets counted and make sure it gets counted correctly, etc. But also, they are making our lives harder at the same time by increasing costs and lowering wages and poisoning the water. So now we have to go out and buy a water filter, and we got to do our research on the water filter to make sure it's going to get rid of all the things that we need to get rid of. And oh, this water filter is too good, it gets rid of all the good things too. So now I got to find some sort of mineral solution to put in my purified water so that it's not stripping all the minerals from my bones that I fucking need. You know, when I'm doing all of that shit at the same time and also worrying about my kid fucking getting shot in a school shooting, yeah, I don't have time to double check my voter registration. I don't have time to do the research on, oh, is what Trump just said bullshit? He seems like he's telling the truth to me, so I guess I'll vote for him, you know? Yeah, it's a two-hander of fucking our lives over so we don't have time to realize who is fucking us over, or have time to vote, or have time to make sure that our vote isn't being canceled and shit like that. All right. Leon Nagol says, hey, I just have a question. How do you talk to a Republican so he doesn't shell back into his MAGA hat of pure denial? So Leon, this is a question that I get a lot. I have no problem going over this because I do think this information is really important for people to hear. If you want to get more into this, I just finished reading a book about it called The Persuaders. I would say the author's name, but I butcher it every single fucking time. It's like Anand Giridharadas or something like that. He's an excellent author. He's written another book called Winners Take All about how all billionaire philanthropy is bullshit. But yeah, short version is you got to do more listening than talking. Data and facts is not going to change any minds, but relating to people on a human level is going to change minds. And you don't need to take a MAGA person and turn them into an AOC Democrat. You just got to push the needle a little bit. Even if it's something as simple as, don't you think it's weird that we have different ideas about what's going on in the world just based on where we get our information? Isn't that weird? Shouldn't there be like one news that we can all agree is the truth, is accurate? And that might be a good place to start from. Don't you think it's weird that the billionaires have so much fucking money? Don't you think it's weird that there's so many billionaires in Trump's cabinet? Like, that's weird, right? Like, we can agree that that's true and that's weird, right? So yeah, it's hard and it takes a lot of work, but you know, that's what we got to do. That is what we got to do. Let's see here. How are we doing on time? All right, I can do a couple more. Let's see here. Wilso Racer says, why did 8 million Democrats like old white Biden over younger black Harris? Well, you know, you framed that question in a way that is very disingenuous, Wilso Racer. You're trying to make it seem like Democrats are racist or that they only like old people. But yeah, so what happened was the Democratic Party worked their ass off to get people to vote for not Trump and Republicans in the 2020 election. There were enough people who were upset at how Trump fucked up the COVID response and the economy that people were able to go out and vote, and people didn't, you know, people were being furloughed from their jobs and shit like that. So we had the highest voter turnout in a presidential election in something like 35 years, I think. In every presidential election since 1975, the candidate that got the most votes did not vote. The only year that was not the case was 2020, when Biden got more votes than did not vote, and then Trump got the third most votes in that election. Now, what happened between then and now? Propaganda and misinformation. It was just flooded into people's noodles that Biden was terrible. Democrats are terrible. Democrats are the cause of inflation. Democrats are worse on Gaza than Republicans are. You shouldn't vote because Democrats don't care about winning. They lose on purpose. Both parties are the same. I saw this shit constantly, and the Dobbs decision, Republicans took away women's right to vote, women's right to choose, and that got interpreted into, why didn't Democrats stop that? And it's like, motherfucker, Republicans did it. You're mad that Democrats don't have the political power to reverse a Supreme Court decision because y'all didn't vote for enough of them. Just misinformation, propaganda. And then there was another element to it as well, which is incumbency bias, where everybody around the globe, regardless of if their government was left, right, or center, people were angry at whoever was in charge at the moment because of the increased prices of everything. And so if it had been a Republican administration, they would have suffered electoral losses also because people were just mad at whoever was in charge. That's the long answer for that. Will So Racer says, Democrats said not voting was a vote for Trump, so 8 million Dems voted Trump, LOL. I mean, Will So Racer, you're saying this like a person who is trying to instigate discord and chaos, but it's not 100% wrong what you just said. 8 million people got tricked into not voting, and millions of people got tricked into voting for Trump. And so, Republicans do not have a monopoly on getting conned. There are plenty of Democrats who got conned into not voting. Muds King 44 says, Will So Racer is here in bad faith. No, I know, but he hasn't crossed the line quite yet. But I agree with you. He is on the short list. Let's see here. Jeremiah Johnson says, nobody is trying to trick you, MAGA. These are the facts. I'm not really sure what you are saying there, Jeremiah Johnson, but I think you're saying what I'm saying. I can't be right. I could be wrong about this. Let's see here. All right, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much for your support, for your shares and your likes and your comments and everything. I appreciate any support that you can give me, whether it is the free kind, like likes and shares and telling your friends how great my live streams are. If you can do the financial kind of support, I appreciate that too, but you don't have to. We are all suffering through a cost of living crisis. I would much rather you put food on the table than throw me a couple of nickels or whatever. If you want to, I have a Patreon that you can join. You can find it on my website. I have a store you can buy things from. You can find that on my website as well, jaredberenstein.com. And you can also send gifts on TikTok and Twitch and stuff like that. If there was a question that you were not able to get answered that you really want to, my DMs are open. And also you can email me through my website, jaredberenstein.com. Let's see here. My stand-up schedule and my streaming schedule are updated regularly on my website, so you can find my in-person stand-up dates and also my live stream schedule, which is normally Tuesday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, but that is subject to change on occasion. And lastly, just please, everybody, don't be despondent. Don't be cynical. Please do the work. You guys know what the work is. If you've been here before, you know what the work is, so just do the work. And if you don't know what the work is, go join a group called Indivisible. Go work for a group like Run for Something. Go work for a group like Vote Save America. Work for the groups that are doing the work if you can't figure out what the work is yourself. But if you ever see my live stream, I tell you constantly what the work is. So please do the work. If we all do the work, then no one has to do a lot of work. All right, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Same back time, same back channel. Have an excellent Wednesday. Take care. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.